Let's go to it.
How about that? I know you really will only see this here on Fox Business. Susie, Peter, and Howard Buffett. Nice to have you all here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so rate your dad, Peter. How's he doing today? This is a different feel.
Yeah, I think he's doing great, but you have to ask them because I'm signing books the whole time.
You don't even pay attention to his dad.
No, exactly. No, I've heard it all.
No. He's great. I mean, first of all, he gets up for this like, no, he looks forward to this all year. I don't think he sleeps the whole weekend, and you'd never know it. He's having a blast.
Howard, what do you think of the man who holds the position that one day, at least in part, you may hold, which is a non-executive chairman?
Well, I think that nobody will ever fill his shoes. That's what I think. But, every year is a little different. And I think that this year, I thought it was great that he could answer directly the questions about Goldman and give the perspective that he has on Goldman Sachs. Because I think it's been a bit of a flurry in the press. And I thought it was great he could do that.
Oh, I would have to say that's been the number one question. People back in New York, people on Twitter were saying, you ask him, is he talking his book? He's got this $5 billion investment, but he came out swinging very much in defense of Goldman Sachs, Susie.
And he's so good at explaining such complicated things.
I did stick around for that.
You saw that part.
Yeah, right.
He stuck around for the juicy part.
Yeah, definitely.
You guys have all done big charitable efforts, and you have your foundations. And there are a lot of people who look at you through this different prism and say, wow, they're kids of billionaires. But how important is it, and I know you don't feel that way because you just think of yourselves as the Buffett kids, but how important is it that you take on what your father has always said, and that is, don't be excessive, take money and do good things with it, Peter?
We did just grow up around it. I kind of compare it to, if you ask the fish the most remarkable thing about its environment, it won't say the water. But we're just in it. We don't recognize that this is something unique. Everybody says, God, you're Warren Buffett's kids, you're so normal. It's like, again, we just grew up around this. So we've absorbed it. We don't really think about how we're supposed to act. We just act that way.
But Susie, and you all actually have children of your own, but how do you make sure that they don't just think, oh, well, life is going to be easy for me. I'm Warren Buffett's grandchild.
Well, one thing I think has been fortunate for my children is they don't have the same last name.
Yeah,
so they've been able to stay under the radar more, and they prefer it that way. But I also think, the way we were raised is the way really we've been raising our kids, which was not in a household with a lot of money and thinking that we had more than everyone else.
Well, he made you drive a junky car. He wouldn't lend you money to rehab your kitchen.
Right.
And what about you, Howard? He wasn't.
How did he torture you?
You probably got left out somehow. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Right. Yeah. Right. I have nothing to add.
I have nothing to add, which is what
I think the number one thing is to just everything you do, and you have to start when your kids are like 1 year old. They pick up everything. And the number one thing you do is you think about how is this going to teach them how to be responsible adults? And then your behavior is going to teach them more than anything you tell them. So you've got to act the act.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, though, about when you look back, because this is your umpteenth shareholder meeting, I'd love to know your earliest memories of these shareholder meetings. I mean, certainly it wasn't this big with all of this fanfare.
No, not at all. Mine, I think, was at the Orpheum, maybe 2,000 people at the most. But I think smaller than that. Yours is probably...
Mine was, I don't know if I would be before you, Howie. Mine, I can tell you, I moved back here in 1988. My son was about 5 weeks old, and it was the famous line of my dad. My son started crying at the meeting, and my dad said, oh, that's my grandson. I just told him my views on inheritance.
Yeah, right.
That was my first meeting at Joslin.
About 15, 16 years old in the basement of National Indemnity.
You went.
Which may be 100 or 200 people.
Not even that.
Many.
No,
right.
Yeah. But I worked at Summers at National Indemnity, and so somehow I ended up going to the annual meeting. I think that's right. That's how I remember it.
But it was in a basement.
Yeah, National Indemnity. Yeah, I do remember that's where
and
it was.
And I think you had to pay 10 cents for your coffee. There was some,
But he was still charging back then. He doesn't give anything away for free here.
Absolutely not.
He's a frugal guy, isn't he, Peter?
Yeah.
But not cheap.
That's why I said frugal.
Yeah, no, and it's true because people he'll pick up a nickel off the street because he knows what that nickel can become. it's not so much about the nickel. It's what he knows he can turn that into. I think it's important to remember that.
Well, Peter, Susie, Howard, my thanks to you. You've been rushing around, found our camera location right here in the Grand Hall. We appreciate it. Howard made it this year. Last year he was, I don't know, walking in circles.
It's hard to keep track of both of them.
My dad told me to go, and she came and got me. I had no choice.
He had no choice. Thank you very much for being on Fox.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll see you next